Across to our correspondent Wassim Cornet, and he is with us now in LA. Wassim, tell us what's happened, because I understand they've played. How was his first performance tonight?
Well, unfortunately, it did end with a loss for the San Antonio Spurs. They played against the Dallas Mavericks. They lost 124 to 119. And you mentioned the expectations were so high. I mean, it is probably very hard for the Spurs fans to stomach this loss for the season opener. It's hard to stomach a loss when you've got one of the best basketball players in the world, if not the best basketball players in the world. Expectations, as I said, sky high ever since the draft in May, when the San Antonio Spurs did draft Victor Wembanyama, the 19-year-old from France. Thousands of fans have been waiting for this moment for weeks and months, the moment when they would see the 19-year-old enter the AT&T basketball court wearing that number 1 jersey. The demand was so high that the San Antonio Spurs were forced to sell standing room tickets only for tonight's game. Let's talk about that game. It was a very close one. Both teams, the Spurs and the Mavericks, playing catch-up throughout the game. Both teams tied several times. And let's talk a little bit about Victor Wembanyama's performance. The good news is that this will forever be in his legacy. The first points he ever scored in his NBA career were a three-pointer. And then it was a very frustrating second quarter with very few shots and opportunities. An even worse third quarter with a couple of fouls that sent him to the sidelines. And then the fourth quarter was just almost a renaissance. He woke up the rest of the team. He scored 9 points, but it was not enough, unfortunately, for the Spurs to catch up with the Mavericks. They had a very tough adversary, both Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, the former scoring 33 points for the Mavericks, the latter 22 points. But it is just the beginning of the season. The 19-year-old will have plenty more opportunities to catch up and turn things around. First opportunity will be this Friday. The Spurs will face the Houston Rockets.
I mentioned, Wassim, you have the greats of the sport. They were followed early in the career that sort of crossed the cultural boundary. So Michael Jordan into clothing, or David Beckham into a world brand. Are you getting a sense from Victor Wembanyama that he's becoming known outside of basketball? I mentioned the Britney Spears incident.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that all of those things happened before he even made his debut tonight at the AT&T Center in San Antonio. I mean, let me tell you, I was with a couple of my colleagues in San Antonio in the month of May when he was drafted, and even before he was drafted, he was the number 1 pick in the entire draft, and it was almost certain that the San Antonio Spurs would get him. But even before the announcement was made official, it was a veritable Wemby fever that swept across San Antonio. We saw murals painted. We saw people chanting his name in the streets. There was a restaurant who even made a Wemby burger with some foie gras. So really, he is already a phenomenon, standing at 7 feet 4 inches tall. That's about 2 meters 24. 19-year-old. Lots of expectations. He did react to the result in the season opener tonight, saying he's still got a lot to learn, but he has no regrets, and he is looking forward to continue to play for the Spurs throughout the season. It is 6 months long. So still a very long season, again, for the Wembanyama and the Spurs to turn things around.